Hi guys, welcome to this module. In this module we're going to look at how to save a baseline and how to create reports. So first of all, just to recap where we are with this project, here's our task list and here is our resource list. So most of these resources have been added and allocated to these tasks. What I'm going to do is change this table to the cost table so that we can see the cost of this project, which is £2,134 at the moment. The baseline column is blank. We're ready to save our baseline, so that column will shortly be populated. To save a baseline, you go to the Projects tab, Set Baseline, and then Set Baseline. And then you have the option to save a baseline. You have 11 options altogether. In older versions of project there was just one baseline option and you had several interim plan options, which basically just saved the start and finish dates. So baseline saves the start and finish dates, but also time phased work, costs and resource allocation. So that is all I need to do for this process. As soon as I click OK, the baseline column is filled in, so it's just at the moment it's just the same as the total cost column. Now I'm going to put this back to the entry table. Now what I recommend people do is not use this default Gantt chart while you're updating a project, but go on to the tracking Gantt, which can be found down the view bar on the left hand side, tracking Gantt, and then modify this table to show the tracking table. Now before I do that, I need to bring my tasks back into view. So on the tracking Gantt you can see you have the percentage complete as a label and your baseline is shown by this charcoal coloured bar, your actual is the red bar. So I'm just going to move this across just to expose more of the table. So I want to change this table to the tracking table. So I'm going View, Tables, Tracking. Now, this isn't the only way that you can update a project plan, but it's the way that I teach in my classes and I think it's great. Now we've got actual start and actual finish and actual duration and other fields that you can see there. I'm just going to add the baseline start field. So baseline start, so I know when it was planned to be start, and baseline finish, and then baseline duration columns. Baseline duration, like so. So I've got an idea what the actual start date was or finish date was and the duration was, so I can utilize these. I'm just going to get rid of this column and then I'm ready to go. So the process is this. So to update this project, this task, install software room 1, I've got several options. Let's say it did start on the 13th, so I can click in there and select the 13th, so it started on time. But its actual finish time was not the 13th, let's say it was the 15th. So as soon as I put that finish date in, the 100% complete is populated and the actual duration has changed to 3 days from the original baseline duration, which was 1 day, and that is reflected on the Gantt chart. Now because install software room 2 is driven by that task, I would update that as well to represent the same. That's 100% complete. So that's one way you can do it. Another way, say test software room 2, let's say that, so that is due to start, was due to start on the 15th, but obviously it's following on, was due to start on the 14th, was following on, it is now following on from the 15th, so it can't have started on the 14th. So if I say it started on the 16th, and instead of filling in the finish date, I just go to actual duration, say it was 2 days instead of the planned 1 day, you can see that moving along, and I'll do the same for this one. So its actual start was the 16th, and it was 2 days in duration. Now, whichever column you fill in affects the other column. I'm not a fan of just going down the 100% complete column or starting to put 10%, 20% because it's not really accurate. And if you're always just filling in a task as 100%, what we're in effect saying is that your planned duration is always accurate. Whereas if you're doing the actual duration, it's more accurate, because if it says 2 days and it was planned to be 1 day, you've got a problem there. You was a day over, and that's got a cost implication. So although that's a quick way of filling in the percentage complete, it's quick, but it's not very accurate, and it gives a false result when you're reviewing projects. So I would avoid that, although it's not undoable, but sometimes you have to do it for speed, but I would try and avoid that if you can. Now, when we did the baseline, I told you you can save multiple baselines, so I'm just going to save another baseline just to show you how that process works. Baseline 1, the previous one was there, click OK, so that's took another snapshot in time. And then I'm just going to update one more task to show you this one. So let's say this one started on Monday the 20th, and it took 2 days. So that goes 100% complete, but I'm now going to go, there's an estimated 2 days left. So that's now going to knock that back down to 50%. So it was planned for 1 day. We did 2 days, but there's an estimated 2 days work left. Something's gone wrong on site. And now, before I do the same with the remaining tasks, I just want to have a look at this. So on the Format tab, I've got the option to display different baselines. So there's the original baseline, which is displayed. If I click on baseline 1, that's showing you the baseline 1 and the movement from that. Go back to baseline, and then same on the slippage baseline. That shows you the slippage, baseline 1. There's not much there, just that last bit. And you can take those off altogether if you want. I'll leave that one on. Now there's also a Gantt chart that you can look at, which is called Multiple Baseline Gantt, which I'm just going to show you. View, Other Views, and then More Views. And it's in this list, Multiple Baseline Gantt. We've only got 2. So there it shows you the baselines. The reason the lines are so thin is because obviously there could be 11 baselines there, but it's a very good view to see movement across a project. And as all Gantt charts, you can add labels on the end of these if you wish. At the top there, maybe you might want to add what baseline that is. That's baseline 1, the red one, and the blue one is the original baseline. I'm just going to go back to the normal Gantt chart. And in fact, I want to go back to the tracking Gantt. Sorry. Tracking Gantt. Now, while you're running your project, you probably want to run reports. So just have a quick look at some of the reports that you have in project on the Reports tab. So you've got these options: dashboard, resources, costs, in progress, and the ability to create your own report. So if I just look at some of the dashboard ones, I'll try a burn down report. That's a burn down report for this particular project. It doesn't give us much information. The project's quite short in terms of time, so it's not showing much information. If I go back to reports and maybe let's have a look at cost overview. So this is telling me that the project is 75% complete. The cost is £3,374. I've got £810 still to spend. So actual costs, and then you can see the graphs there and what the implication is in terms of cost variance on this one, £920. Another one, let's have a look at resources, resource overview. I quite like this one. So it basically tells you what work's been done against baseline work, so you can see quite clearly there a lot more work has been done or is planned to be done as opposed to the baseline. And this is the percentage work complete for each resource. and then you've got that same information in a table. Now just go back up to reports, costs, so cash flow, remaining cost, actual cost, work performed, budgeted cost, work performed, budgeted cost, work scheduled in this table. So all these reports are great, but I always find it easier to create your own report. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. And once you've created a report, they'll appear in recent or custom, depending when you was last into those. So I'm going new report, and I'm going to start off with a blank report. I'll call it Steve. Click OK to that, and then we get a blank piece of paper basically, with the design tab at the top giving us some options. So the first one I'm going to do is give myself a little chart. Clustered column will do, and then the default that comes in is this one. So I've got that. Now let's get a table from this. Get a little table. So that's a table. Now I might not want all of that, so let's have a look what I can knock off there. So I've got options here. So do I need the name? That's the yes, I do need a name. I don't need this start button, so I'm just going to remove the start and finish fields. So now I've just got the title and the percentage complete, and maybe I can just move that, the whole thing, across to the other side, and maybe make that a little bit smaller, like so. Move the graph down, and so this graph is looking at tasks. Let's have a look at creating another graph, same graph, but this time I'm going to change this one to look at the resources. So resources at the top there, so this is all the resources and the hours. Now this is where filters might come in, because I've got all resources, but I could filter by group, or create new filters. Resource work, let's put that one on, so that's filtered just the work resources as opposed to the equipment, which probably doesn't make much sense, but you've got your work resources there. These are the 3 default fields, but you have got the option to put other fields in there. If I come down this list, you've got the 3 ticks there. Tick work variance, and I'm going to tick that work variance one off. I don't want that on, but basically you go through these options and tick things on or off depending on what you want to look at. So, and then as always with graphs and things, you can format those from at the top there to make them pretty. And once you've saved this stuff, you've got a report that you can look at. So this tells you all the information that you require. I'm just going to click on this graph to change this graph slightly and have a look at level. So I'm on level 1 at the moment. If I go all subtasks, that shows me everything, which is slightly too much information. So I'll go back to level 1. I've got active tasks, and again I can select all tasks. Not much difference in there because they've not changed. So groups, I could use critical maybe. Critical yes, critical no. So these are the same sort of things you can put onto tables. Just going to take that off, no group, and you've got the sort option there. Now I'm just going to create another table at the bottom, and so that's the same information as before. Let me just push that down a bit, but on this one, if I scroll down, I do want to put not project summary, all subtasks. So that's going to give me a list of all the tasks. So that's just basically like your Gantt chart, if you like, and you could add columns in there if you so wish by just ticking the columns on, and probably make that slightly wider. to accommodate the resource lists. And there you go. And then you can then close this report or save this report, or I'm just going to go into a different view, gone onto the Gantt chart, and then if I want to get back to that report, it's in custom, there it is, and this will reflect any changes in the project. If I go back to report, it will also be in recent used. So that's basically how to save a baseline and one way to update your tasks and then create reports. And that's the end of this module. Thank you for your time and I hope you enjoyed it. In this module we're going to look at inserting sub-projects into a master project file and then creating a project report that will show the allocation of resources across projects. So we've got two projects, and you can see there project A, project B, project A, project B, and project A, project B. Each person working on two different projects, and this one's showing you the start and finish dates. So to create all of this, I'll start from the beginning. I'll just delete these two projects and reinsert them. So to create a sub-project, you are going to the project tab, clicking on sub-project, and then finding the project that you want. So this is in documents. So project A and project B, there's project A. Same process for project B. Find project B, bring them in. Now if I expand these projects, it shows you the people that's on these projects. If you update this project or this project, the original projects will reflect that change. I'm just going to change this one to have two different people as a resource so you can see the differences there. Now if I indent these underneath the master, so back to tasks, indent, you can see then this picks up the timeline across the top. So all of these are just single day projects for this example. Now to create a report, I'll select report and new report. I'll pick a blank one to start with. I'll call it report 1. Okay, and it gives me a blank paper with that title. So let's got myself a column chart. Now the default comes in showing you the hours. So what I want to do here is take off actual work and remaining work, just leave work on there. If I change the level to show all subtasks, it gives you a breakdown of the work, but it doesn't actually tell you the projects. So if I then go to the group option, now I've created some groups here, but if I just do a new group and call this projects, and then from the field list select projects and then apply, and it gives you the project A and project B. If I then change the level, because that's showing level 1 to all subtasks, it breaks down between the two projects. So that's the first one. Now let's create a second chart and do it in terms of resources. So again, I'm change this to resources, take off actual work and remaining work just to keep it simple. Obviously you can leave those on. Now there's Bob and Bill from one of the projects because I didn't delete them off the resource sheet, but it doesn't matter. There you can see Paul and Steve and Bob and Bill there. Now again, I need to group this, so I've already got one called project, so group by project, it shows project A, project B, select all subtasks and it tells you who's on which project. project B, project A. So that's the second one. And then to show that as a table, if I add a table, there's my table, just move that down a bit and change this to resources, so it shows you the resources. I don't want start and finish, I just want work on this one. So it gives me the hours worked, and again group by projects, project A, project B, and then show all subtasks. So that should break that down for me by project and how many hours worked or planned work for these resources. So that's a very quick overview of how to create a report that will report across multiple projects. But remember, the first step is you need to create your master project file, insert your sub-projects where they're independent resources, and then you will be able to create the reports that you wish. Report 1, or the one that I had previously, showing you that information. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for your time. In this module, I want to have a quick look at how to run visual reports. So in Project, you have all these reports that are great, but you've also got this legacy button to visual reports to send data into Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Visio. So before I do that, let's have a quick look at what we have on the screen. This is a very small project. I've already saved the baseline on this project. So baseline, set baseline, just saved that. So it's got a baseline. Don't want to update that, cancel that off. I've also already updated some tasks, so you can see these tasks have got some completions. These are time phase tasks. I've allocated resources to some of these tasks, and these tasks are all linked together. What I want to do now is send this data into Excel first off, and then Visio, so you can see how it works. So first off, visual reports. You get this box coming up with 2 ticks at the top for Excel and Visio. If I take the tick off Visio, you'll see there's a lot less. If I put the tick back on Visio and take the tick off Excel, do it the other way around, there's not as many. So if we both ticks on, it looks quite cluttered. Now you can see at the bottom there's one called work, this one. I've created that report, but I'll show you how to do that in a second. So if I go to resource summary and click on this resource remaining work report, I've got the option at the bottom there to change the timeline or the time period, and I can also edit this. If I click on edit template, these are the fields that will be available when I run this report, and I can take these off or put some other ones on. I can also add any custom fields that I may have done from this list. I'm not going to do any of that, so I'll just cancel that. And then I'm just going to view this, and this should open up Excel as a pivot table. I'll just make this full screen so you can see this, and I'll just make my screen a little bit smaller so it shows the whole chart. So what you have there is a chart, and then on the next tab along you have the pivot table with all the little tick boxes that you would normally expect on a pivot table. I'm just going to tick actual costs on there, and then when you come back to your chart, the actual cost column should have been added. You can change this graph if you don't like this, which I don't. So if I just go to design at the top there and change chart type, just want it as a normal clustered column, click OK to that, and then you can see this side by side. If you don't want any of these on, so if I take one of these ticks off, it just removes that tick. If I take the cost off, and maybe you've got work there, so actual work, and where's baseline work? Baseline work. And then you can save this as a report and use it on and on as many times as you want. But for now, I'll just close that one down. I'm not going to save it. Don't save it. And then I'm going to select one to run into Visio. So if I go to all and take the tick off Excel, you've got this one, basic report or baseline report. This is going to drop it into a pivot diagram. Just click in view. should open up Visio, and then it's a case if you manipulating the diagram in Microsoft Visio. So what you have down this left hand side is the categories and then the totals that you might want to display. So I want to add tasks, so it should add the tasks along the bottom there. So at the moment it's got work and baseline work and cost and baseline cost. If I tick this one, actual, it just adds that actual work column in at the bottom there, so you can just add in extra bits and bobs. If you don't like this, you can delete it off. This is what a pivot diagram is all about. You can just manipulate stuff as you wish. You click on different elements and add these features if you're required to see that information. So that's dropping it into Visio, so I'll close that one down and I'm not going to save it. Now what I would like to do is create my own report, so I'm going to create a new template, and I want an Excel template, and I'll do it on resource usage, and then you get the option here to pick the fields that you want. So I'm going to remove all of those and just add a couple back, because one of the things I always find difficult in project is identifying where the data sits so you can pull the right column through. So I do want actual costs, so I'm just going to double click on that. I want actual work, and I want baseline cost and baseline work. Let's go for that one. So I've just got 4 fields, clicking OK to that. So OK again, and then it runs it. Now it comes up slightly different because now you have to build the pivot table. So let's just tick some of these on. These are all the summary fields, if you like, and then you've got the options there for resources. So there's a list of resources. Now it's put resources down here, but I could equally put the resources over there. Whichever way you want to look at this, it's up to you. If you don't want resources, you can tick the time, and then you can put the calendar back over here. You can manipulate the values box and put it over that side. So this is the pivot side of pivot tables. Now obviously I've messed this up a little bit, so I'm just going to take a couple of these ticks off to bring it back into a small little box there, because what I want to do is add a pivot chart to this. So if I just get myself a pivot chart, you can see how that works. Straightforward little graph like you saw before. This is just sitting next to this now. I'll just make sure it's not in the way, so I'll just move it across a little bit. So now you have to be slightly careful with this, because if you are ticking things on like resources, that's now banged into the graph a little bit, and you might want to take some of these off. So let's have a look at, let's not look at work, let's just look at cost. So then it becomes a little easier to see, and you can filter this off as well if you don't want to look at all of this. If I don't want to look at unsigned, I don't want to look at equipment, so you just take these off. Paper, not interested. Okay, so then that is now just showing the people baseline cost against actual cost, and then I could do the work, put the work on, take the cost off, like that. And then you want to save this. If I save this, what it does, it saves it as a template, an Excel template. I'll call this Steve template, so we can identify it. It's going into the templates folder. Save that. Say yes to that, so it just refreshes the data, and then close that down. And close this down. So let's have a quick recap of that. If I click on Visual Reports, and you've got mine there now, look, sitting there alongside the other one I did, Steve's work. So if I take the tick off Visio, it won't show as much. And then if I go through this, you see on resource usage is the information that I selected my template from. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. If some of these reports aren't actually doing what you want them to do, you can just create your own, and you can have a list of reports there. So that's basically a quick look at the visual reports, how you can create your own, how you can run visual reports into Visio or Excel. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for your time. In this module, I want to look at earned value analysis, a quick short look at it. So on the screen, I've got the earned value table. So I'll just go and get it again for you. So I'll show you where it is. It's in more tables at the bottom here. And there it is, earned value, apply. Now I've also inserted the percentage complete and duration fields just to make this a little bit easier. So that is insert column, and then you pick the one you want. I don't want any of those. So I'm going to create one task, task A. It's going to be a 1 day duration task, and then I'm going to assign a resource to it. So a resource sheet, Bob, he's going to be on £10 an hour. Come back to the Gantt chart and assign Bob. Resources at the top, assign resources, assign Bob. Close that. So what you need to do now is save a baseline for this to work, and I'm going to do that. So project, set baseline, okay, and then these columns get filled in. So what have we got here? So we've got this first one, planned value. So baseline, cost, work scheduled, that means, or budgeted cost, work scheduled, should I say. And this is budgeted cost, work performed. So planned, earned, actual cost, work performed. Then scheduling variance in cost terms, and cost variance. So if you've got an additional resource to come on, how does that impact? So that would be to do with time increasing. If you get, this task is 1 day at the moment, but if it goes to 2 days, that will impact this field. And then estimated at completion, your baseline cost, and then the variance, how much off plan were you. So all of these you can go into help and get some more information on. Help gives you a bit more information in terms of examples and best uses and things like that. But these little short tips are quite useful as well. So let's see how this is going to work then. So if I put this 1 day task at 10% complete, let's see what figures get filled in. So we've earned £8, that's right. Actual cost is £8. We're £72 to go. And that cost variance hasn't changed because we have not added an extra resource. Everything else is the same. Okay, let's change the duration to 2 days. So that if I change that to 2 days, now you get the cost variance field coming up. If I go back up and change this to 20%, that went back down to 5%, but I put it to 20%. You can see that the cost variance field is now changing because the duration has changed, and we've got a person on it, a resource on it that we didn't plan to have, and also the scheduling variance has changed because of that incurred extra cost. Now if I add another person, that's going to make it even worse. So if I go down and add Bill, he's on £10 an hour. Go back to the Gantt chart. So assign him to the same task, assign, close that. So you've got 2 people on, so now when you start increasing this, these figures should start changing quite a lot. So let's go with 50% complete. So now it's costing us cost variance. If I put that back on there so you can see what that means, earned value, cost variance. The difference between how much it should have cost and how much it is costing. Difference between the current progress and the baseline plan of tasks. So these 2 fields are telling you if you're incurring any additional costs. Now if I delete all this off, if I put that back to 0 and put that back to 1 day, we've still got the scheduling variance because of Bill. I'll take Bill off, kill Bill. So Bill's no longer part of this. Everything is gone back to 0. cost variance, I should have said, not scheduling variance, that's still £80 to spend. So if I start spending this, if I go to 50%, that goes to 40. If I go to 100%, that should go to 0, because everything's on target, everything's as it should be, no variance at completion. So if I put that back down to 0, so everything's okay. But if I extend this, so if I extend this to 2 days, we've now got, that's the estimated completion, we've got an £80 variance. These cost thing hasn't been added to yet. I'll go 20%, doesn't matter what I put in here really. Now it's starting to impact on that. If I put this, I'll leave that as it. If I then go and create another person, bill again at £10. So this is what happens in a project anyhow. You're going to get these additions during the project, or it could be the other way around. You're losing resources, so it's going to impact you. So you're just using this table to give you some idea of where you should be and if you're on target or not. So the variance at this stage now with me doing that is 176 quid. So your baseline cost was 80. Now you estimated to spend 256, and you've got a variance of that. Now if I put this to 3 days, that's going to put that back down. I'll put it back to 50% on 3 days. You can see it's costing even more. Okay, so if we have a quick look at some of the other earned value tables, so I'll put this back to 0 and 1 day. So we've got still got a variance of £48. Now if I go up to the view tables, more tables, you've got cost indicators, so I'll apply that one. So you've got this TCPI field, which is the ratio of work remaining to be done and the funds remaining to be spent, and there's a formula for that at the bottom. You've also got this this percentage field. Now let's just have a look at this. So I just need to insert those fields again. So let me insert the duration field, duration, and the percentage complete as well. So if I knock Bill off, I don't need to delete him, do I? Just need to remove him from this. Remove Bill for now. Okay, so if I start completing this, what's happening here? So if I do 40%, oh, let's do 50%. So it's still a 1 day task, 50% done. Got a CPI of 1, cost performance index 1, so that's bang on schedule. Now if I change that to 2 days, now we're behind schedule. So a number less than 1 means we're behind schedule. You know, we're 100% CV percent there, that's 100% behind schedule because it's 2 days. And if this is over 1, you are ahead of schedule. But that is obviously telling you what that impact is. So these tables are great little tools to look at. You don't have to bring all the table in. You can just bring maybe this one in or that one in, maybe just insert it into another table, into your cost table, and then you get a bit of an eyeball of what's going on your project. And the other one, I'll just quick put it on the screen, I'm not going to go through it, is the schedule indicators. And you can see it's already showing negatives there. Not as much stuff, but you've got a negative in terms of schedule in there. So this is the ratio of schedule variance to budgeted cost of work scheduled, expressed as a percentage. So you're behind schedule basically, and that's the same thing, only this wants to be a positive as well. Alright, so that's a quick look at earned value tables. Hopefully that was of use to you, and I'll see you in the next one. In this module, I want to look at how you can create an S-curve from Microsoft Project. So at the moment, you're looking at a screen of earned value columns. So you can see there we've got the BCWS column, planned value, which is budget cost of work scheduled, ACWP, which is the actual cost of work performed, and then this one, the budgeted cost of work performed, basically a cumulative value of the percentage complete of the task. So these are the fields I'm going to use in my S-curve, and what you need to do is have a project that has a baseline, because none of this works without saving a baseline. And if I quickly go to the report tab so you can have a look at what I'm talking about. So this is the S-curve, creating the S-curve there, and those are the three fields. And if I just click onto those, you can take these off if you don't want them, and then they should be removed like so. So it's basically whatever you want to have put in there. So I'm going to recreate all of this from scratch in a new file. So if I go back to my base Gantt chart, let's just copy these tasks. And in fact, I'll do it like this. I'll copy the whole thing, resources as well. Copy, Control C, Control N, new. Paste them in. Okay, so there's my tasks. Let's just get these back to not complete. And if I just move this over a bit, you can see when you copy things like that in Project, it's already copied the resources, and it would have already populated the resource sheet, which is quite clever, but also something you need to be aware of when you do copy and paste. Now, so there is all our tasks, and they've all been fully loaded up. Now this is a blank file, so I'm just going to save this as S-curve. So you can have it as S-curve. Better put that as 3 because I've already got 2. Save that. Now what I need to do is save a baseline. So save a baseline, project, set baseline. Just save that baseline. You've got 11 baselines altogether. I'm just going to save that one. Okay, so that's now a project ready to go. And now if I change the table, so if I go view tables and more tables and select the earned value table, cost indicators, apply that, you can see you get these fields like so. And if I go back to the resource sheet, there's something I didn't notice, so I need to put some costs in here. So I'll do that right now. So these are all on £10 an hour, and overtime rate is 15. I can copy these down. So no, I can't because these are not in the right order, so I need to do it again. Then I can copy it down. So paper is material, Microsoft Office is material, and computers is material. Okay, and everything else is work. And now the cost for these, computer is going to be a fixed cost of 500, and Microsoft Office is going to be 100. Paper is going to be £1 per pack. Okay, let's go back to the Gantt chart. Let's have a look. So that's put some figures in there. Now I need to reset the baseline because they weren't there to start off with. So that's the actual cost. If I go back to project and just save over that baseline, set baseline, select it, still the same one, click OK. Yes. Now this planned figure appears. So this figure is, if you look at this title, it's the cumulative work time phase. So basically just today's value, even though that's a 1-day task, I had it as a 2-3-day task. I'll just put that back to a 3-day task. If I go back to entry, I put that back to 3 days, it was on 3 days, and then come back to this table. You can see it's just reporting on the work completed so far. That's why that figure is different to that, because if you look at Anne and Ben, 160, computers 500, 600, and paper £1. So that's where that value is coming from just today. And these will, as you get to these tasks, these will populate as well. Now, to create the graph, what we need to do is a couple of things. I'm just going to get rid of this table and go to the tracking table. I'll go down to the tracking Gantt view down here. Now, when I use the tracking table, I use it in the tracking view. So tables, tracking, and then I need to, because you can't actually see what the baseline start is meant to be, I always insert, if I insert that column, baseline start, so I know when it was due to start, baseline finish. Creating your own little tables is quite a good way of getting on top of all these, that's the wrong column, getting on top of all these different fields. So baseline finish, that one, and also baseline duration I like to have, so I know what the planned duration was. Baseline duration, so there's the information. So now I can start updating some of these tasks. But before I do that, I want to create a report. So report, and just going to create a new report, and I could call it S-curve. Okay, and move that across. So this wants to be a time-based report. So to do that, you've got across the top there different options. It's on name, put it to time, and you get the dates coming across there. So down the bottom, it's on the project summary option. There's all the subtasks. If I put that on there, it becomes very unreadable. So that's not something that I'm going to do. Project summary, and it's on actual work and work. So I don't want these fields. You can either tick them off or you can find them, and like that, off. So what I want is, I don't want baseline, I want the cost fields. So let's go to costs. So these are the fields I want: actual cost, work performed, and budget cost, work performed, and that one, those three. And I want these as a line, so just click on that, chart type. They're all down as columns actually, so I'll have them all as line with markers on. Now there's nothing in there at the moment because I haven't done anything. I'll click OK to that, and then just leave that, and then just go back to my Gantt chart and start tracking Gantt and start updating some of these tasks. Let's get rid of this timeline because it's slightly annoying. Off. Alright, so let's say, now this is how I update tasks in this table. Rather than doing the 100% complete, which is, don't want that column, just delete that off, which is a very lazy man's way of doing things, it's more accurate to use the duration, or even more accurate still, using the hours, the man hours. So this task was planned for 3 days. Let's say it took 4 days. That will automatically make this complete, and it's put the start date and the finish date in. So it's letting the project do the scheduling for you. And then if I say this one was meant to be 2 days, let's say this was 3 days, and then you can see it's moving off the baseline marker there, and the actual cost is being shown in that column there. Now train, let's say that was meant to be 2 days, let's say that was 4 days, and now this one is a milestone. So this one is no time, so you can just go 100% like so. And now onto the install room 2, it's meant to be 3 days, so let's say it was 4 days, and we'll just do one more. Let's say this was 2 days. So we've now added some detail into this. We've been tracking our project's progress. So if you go back to the reports and your report should be under custom S-curve, and then you should see some information coming up. Now there's no information showing here because the status date is set as today, so it's only showing it as today, so we need to go and change the status date, which is on the project tab, and let's go back to the Gantt chart so that becomes active project, and status date is we need it going forward to say the 8th of January. So let's set the status date to that, the 8th of January. Okay, so now these figures have populated, and then you go back to your report, go to custom S-curve, and there's your graph picking that up. So because I'm doing a training example and we're not actually moving forward in time, that's why this graph didn't populate, so you have to use the status date. But if we were using this as a live example, a live environment, moving forward day on day on day, the graph would naturally build up because it would be looking at today's date, and you would only need to use the status date if you want to do or show where you expect to be in the future. So that's how you create an S-curve in Project, and that's all I want to talk about on this little exercise. So hopefully that's been of use to you, and I'll see you on the next one. In this module, I want to have a look at creating a project navigation report with hyperlinks to different areas in the project. So you can see on the screen here, I have a report called Project Navigation with some data on there. On the left hand side, I've got some links to various parts of the project. Just click on this first one, Tracking Gantt. That will open up the Tracking Gantt view, and I've also got the Tracking Gantt table activated. Now on this Gantt chart, I have a link to take me back to Project Navigation. Next one, Resources, and then the link back, S-curve analysis, which is a report, and then a link back, and then a work progress overview, resource overview, and then a link back. So it's just a navigation form, or report should I say, that gets you around various parts of your project. And you can also have this as the opening up view. You have to a little tweak you need to make that to work. But what I want to do now is just recreate something similar to this. I'll call it Project Design. So it'll be a new report. So I'll go to Reports and New. Just pick a blank one. So I'll call it Project Design. We'll get a blank one there. So what you need to do is use text boxes. So text boxes, I'll just do, and then you type in whatever you want as a label. Project Resources. And I'll do another one. Project Tracking. And then another one. So whatever you want, I'll just do 3. And Project Reporting. So each of these needs to be linked to the various bits that you've used as a title, so resources and tracking. I'll do that in a second. But I want to put some information in on this bit, so I'll get myself a little chart. So there's a default chart, that'll do. Just position that wherever you want it. And the default table I'll do as well. So table, which is a project status. Just position that under there. I don't want the start and finish date, so I'll just remove each one of those. Right click, remove, or you can take the tick off, and then you can resize this box and position it wherever you want. So that's all I want to do for that. Now the links, so if I highlight these, and then you just right click, and you've got the link option on the right mouse click, and then you can link to the relevant bits. So this is resources, so I don't want, it's on reports at the moment. Place in this document. So I go up to resource sheet is what I want, so I want it to link to that. This one is tracking, so this needs to link to the tracking table, so link. So this is going to be views tracking Gantt, that one. And then this will just be to another report link. So I'll call this resources, resource overview. I'll go for that one. Okay, so now you just click those and it links straight to, in this case, the resource sheet. And I've got a link there from before. I don't want to go to that project navigation. I want to go back to this other one, which I've forgotten already what I've called it, project design. So I need to edit this link. So right click, hyperlink, edit. So this needs to go to project design. Now you can't see project design in there, because what you have to do for this to work, so you can do the links, is you need to go to the view tab, other views, more views. You need to get into the organizer and you need to get that report. So go to reports and then project design. You need to push this into the global template. So just copy it across, copy it into there, close that, right click on there again, hyperlink, edit link. So now you should be able to find that. So we're on project design, there it is. So it wasn't there before, now it is. Click OK. So that should link back to your project. The same for tracking. This has already got one there. Again, it's a wrong one, but now because I've already pushed that across into the global template, I should have it. Project design. Okay, check it, click, and then project reporting. There's a link here that I've just drawn another text box on, so I'll leave that one there. I'll just draw another text box because this is a report, and call it project design, and then highlight that, right click, link, and then you're coming back to your project design report. Okay, then you just click it and it takes you there. So all of these work going there and they all work coming back, so you've checked that now. Now if you want this to be your default view when you open project, if I go to file, options, so at the moment it's on Gantt chart with timeline, you will need to create a view and add it into this list here. So I'm going to try and do that. Now it's not as straightforward as you might think, because you can't click on view and save this as a view because it's a report. So what you've got to do is create a view. So if I go into the Gantt chart, you've got to create a view with that report in it. So if I split the screen, put details on, so in the bottom part I'll have the Gantt chart. At the top I want the report, custom project design. So now I need to pull this down a little bit. You can see now where you might need to adjust this report because there's not much space. I can maybe push that out of the way over there. Like so. And you can bring this back up. And maybe you just want a summary, because this is just the opening screen. I've got that with a name on it. You can have it on a laptop, it's quite small, but on a big screen you'll be able to see all of that. I'll just collapse that down for now, and then we need to save this as a view. So if I click into the top part and go view, it doesn't have me as a save option there, it's grayed out. But if I click on the bottom part and go view, you're basically tricking this save view. I'll call it project start. Now this view is really just that part, as you'll see in a minute. So you need to go up to other views, more views, and into the organizer, find the view called project start, that one, and copy it into this global template. Close that one. So now if I go file, options, I can change this to project start. There it is, project start. Okay. Now if I close this file down, yes, and then go back to open software implementation, that one, it should open up with that view, which it does. And you can adjust it. And then you've got your links still. You can go to the various places. If I've added a link to the reports up here. So if I go to project design, it'll bring me back to there. Tracking takes me to the tracking Gantt, and takes me to that. Okay, so that's just basically creating a report. If I just go back to the initial one, project navigation. So this report is basically a navigation report to take you to the main areas of project, or the main areas that you use in project. So you can add as many of these links as you need, just to make it more user-friendly for everybody, especially people that are not familiar with project. But that's all I want to talk about in this session, so thank you for your time, and I'll see you on the next one.